You finally figured out that your phone camera isn't enough and you want a dedicated camera. Where do you go? The first thing to understand is that used gear is almost always the correct option for the beginner photographer. Photographers are almost always shifting gear, shifting body, shifting systems, and that gear has to go somewhere. The places where I look are Facebook Marketplace and similar apps, camera stores and their used sections, and thrift stores and pawn shops where people just kind of throw their stuff. Marketplace and other similar apps are usually the most volatile, but also the fastest. If you're looking for a quick deal for someone who's just trying to get rid of their camera gear as fast as possible, this is often the best place to look. The one problem with this is that you really do need to understand what is a scam and what isn't, and what is a good deal for said camera and what isn't. So maybe this isn't the best type of arrangement for a first-time camera buyer. If you're looking for something really cheap, generally the thrift store or the pawn shops, they have the best pricing. You can't really guarantee that the staff there have the most expertise when it comes to camera gear. Nothing wrong with that. It's just you're not really going to be getting a lot of advice, but you probably will be getting a pretty consistently low price. The best place, in my opinion, for the beginner photographer is the used section in a camera store. I think that camera stores obviously have the best staff, and they will generally have good advice for you, telling you what you need to get, what you're looking for, and maybe offer some advice on what's a good starter lens, what's a good starter body. These are people who've been dealing with people like you for at least a few years, and that's pretty valuable information. I will say though that the pricing isn't always the best, just because it's a dedicated camera store. They have to make up their margins somewhere if they're reselling used stuff. Once you've found your storefront of choice, or maybe multiple storefronts of choice, you need to understand what you're actually looking for. For me personally, I was always looking to get into street photography before anything else. I wanted to take pictures of people and also my friends. This is not always a question that people know the answer to when they're first trying to get into photography. I find that a lot of people kind of want to say that they want to take pictures of everything. While you may not be wrong, maybe you do want to take pictures of everything. Once we start to narrow down what you don't want to take pictures of, things become a little bit more clear. Do you want to take pictures of landscapes? Do you want to do nature? Do you want to do sports? Do you want to do events? Do you want to do street photography? Do you want to do portraits, studio? There's so many different types of photography, and all of them have very different needs. The thing about camera gear is that universal gear can exist, but it gets really expensive. So understanding what you actually want to pursue saves you a lot of money. So I'm going to give you some easy choices to just choose from, and that'll give you a quick starting point. Let's start with street photography. If you're looking for street photography, you're generally looking for, something with a flip out screen, compact, easy to use. You want a decent selection of prime lenses that are decently cheap. You probably don't want to edit too much, but you do want some flexibility in the files because, again, I know a lot of people who like to experiment a lot with street photography because otherwise you are kind of just taking pictures of people on the street. And that does get a little boring kind of fast. So having some flexibility with editing does tend to vary up things. Autofocus is tricky in this situation because you do need decent autofocus. Like you are trying to shoot people in motion, but you don't necessarily need sports level autofocus where you're trying to track people sprinting across a field or something. So you just need kind of okay levels of that. In my book, I think the camera that hits all of those notes is probably going to be something like in the Sony a6300 or something in the Sony a6000 series. It's all of those things. It's small. It has good autofocus. You have a great selection of prime lenses and whatever you're looking for. It's pretty easy to operate, I would say. Good flexibility in the files. I'm not in love with the color science, but I think that it's pretty good for what it is. And obviously you can edit it if you like. Presets are very applicable to Sony cameras. It's perfectly fine. I don't know. I think it's actually a very good starter camera. It's very flexible in a lot of ways. It's not exactly perfect at anything, but it is very flexible, very versatile. And that's what you're looking for in street photography. Now, if it's a little too high budget, because it can go up depending on where you are in terms of the price, I would look for something like a Sony NEX5R, which was actually my first camera. It's way smaller. The sensor is a little bit less in terms of megapixels, and there's no external viewfinder. I find that the files that come from that camera are surprisingly good. I am surprised every single time at how much I actually like the color just straight out of that camera. And even just a little bit of tweaking makes those things look really, really pop. Great camera. I actually love it. It's super cheap, and it's E-mount, which means that you have probably the biggest lens selection out of any camera in the industry right now. Maybe except for Micro Four Thirds. Okay, but maybe you're looking for something more high performance, something that's better suited for events, maybe weddings, maybe you're looking for sports photography, maybe even birds. You want something fast, you want something with high buffer speeds, good weather sealing, maybe that'd be good. Maybe a comfortable grip, something that screams professional without being professionally priced. And for me, this is a bit of a controversial opinion, but the perfect camera, at least in like the budget price range for that, is the Panasonic Lumix G9. I know what you're gonna say. The sensor is smaller than you'd expect. I would argue that size doesn't matter to a certain point. After using this camera, I have had to come to the conclusion that it is pretty much perfectly designed for what it is, which is the working individual's camera. Great burst, excellent video, 4K 10-bit. I actually think it might be the best video at this price point just for what it is. You can get 4K 10-bit 30, 4K 8-bit 60. If none of that sounds relevant to you, then it doesn't apply to you. But that's the nice thing about it. It has so many features that you can kind of just pick and choose what you want out of the G9 and then ignore everything else. 2 SD card slots, perfect for events, great handheld stabilization just in the camera itself, probably the best at that price point again. Multiple like class leading features at that budget. It's just so good and it's so cheap and no one talks about it, and I don't know why, because you look at like its big brother, which is like the GH5, which is like the more video focused version of the G9, and people love that camera. People always say that like that is like the greatest like starter budget like movie camera for like young people. But no one ever talks about the G9, even though the G9 has like better stabilization. The only problem with the G9, in my opinion, is that like maybe the autofocus isn't like the best, but you can just like shoot burst. You can shoot continuous autofocus, and then you have like a crazy good hit rate, and your buffer is like insane, so you don't have to worry about that. And I don't know, man. Like I think it's a really good camera. Supremely underrated for professional contexts. That's all I'll say about it. Great camera. Before I get to my last recommendation, if you want to hear more about my weird camera advice, just feel free to subscribe if you prefer. You don't have to. I am trying to put out more videos lately. I've been busy. Life happens, but I am working back into it, so thank you. Now, my last recommendation is perhaps my favorite recommendation because it is kind of for me. It's for people who really just want to have fun with their device, more so than anything else. Obviously, you do want performance. You do want like a decent working camera. Above all, you do want to be able to take good pictures and sell the pictures if you really wanted to. But this is a camera for people who want to go on a photo walk and enjoy their time on that walk, or maybe take it to the beach with their friends and not feel too bad about it maybe getting a little too sandy. You know what I mean? Like it's just a good piece of kit that you can feel happy taking, and you feel good pressing that shutter button. And for me, that's always been the Fujifilm X-T1. Back in the day when it first came out, this was supposed to be like more of a professional camera. And I think nowadays, with a bit of a dated sensor and it being more than 10 years old, people kind of look at it a little differently. I look at it a little differently. I look at like the dials up top. I look at the devoted like exposure compensation dial, your shutter speed dial, the ability to adapt any of your Fujifilm X mount lenses, and most of them having like an aperture dial on the lens itself. I look at all those film simulations. I look at all those recipes that people have made. And I see a community of people that really just enjoy using their device. And that's always been what Fujifilm is to me. That X-Trans sensor is something special. I currently use a Fujifilm X-T50, which is like the latest in terms of sensor technology from Fujifilm. But I still look back at my pictures with my X-T1 and I think, damn, those colors were really good. Damn, those colors were crazy. There was something special. I know Fujifilm gets a lot of hype. I know people are always trying to drive the price up to these damn things, and it's impossible to get a new one. But I really do want to say that the X-Trans sensors, those have something to them that is special. If you can't get an X-T1, you can also get an X-E2, perhaps an X-T20. an XT30. You know, the prices will start to go up and up and up, but still good cameras. I love them. You can't go wrong with them. One last thing, a lot of people say to start off with film. Like, they want to start off with film cameras. And I think it's great. Film is really cool, but I actually have an issue with that, which is that to effectively shoot film, you need to make a lot of mistakes learning how to shoot a camera. Exposure is tricky to understand when you're first starting out, especially, you know, if you're going from like a phone camera, which handles most of it for you and doesn't really give you a lot of control in the first place. Film cameras oftentimes don't have functioning light meters, which is just a way for the camera to see how much light is coming into the camera and make an assessment and adjust the settings for you. So oftentimes you'll have to like make that call yourself or bring a light meter or use an app on your phone or something, and your life gets a little trickier. You have to understand, okay, is the sun going to affect how this shot is going to turn out? How much so? The answer is yes, but how much am I going to factor that in? How much am I going to turn down my aperture? All these things can really ruin a shot. And the thing about film is that shots get kind of expensive. You only have 24 or 36 shots a roll. Maybe if you're using a half frame camera, like what's getting kind of popular nowadays, you get 72, which is great, sure. But that's a whole different thing. Personally, the best move to make is to buy a cheap digital camera, understand how to properly expose, understand what your preferred shooting style is, and then move into film. I'm not saying don't touch film, but just give it a second, learn how to shoot a camera first, and then move into film and spend your money on rolls and stuff like that. Okay, this video went on way too long, but thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I'm going to leave you be now. I'm going to keep making videos. Bye-bye.